the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
Savage.
people
you're the
have
lever of
become...
power.
But
Just cooked. Just cooked. Okay, Kamala Harris is done. Yeah. Pour one out for the Kamala Harris staffers who came up with the idea of doing a Fox News interview. Kamala's team watching the interview right now. Kamala is not feeling the joy. Oh, baby. Kamala's getting absolutely cooked on Fox News right now. It's the closest thing Kamala Harris has ever been to working with the fries. Oh, man. Trump should just play Kamala Harris's interview in the background during the debate. What would you see? Oh, you'd see brutality like that.
One from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
I want to make this very clear. All Brett Baer's doing is asking Kamala Harris to defend her positions. Kamala Harris, defend your positions. You're the one running for office. You're the one who said all these things. Here's clips of you saying it. Here's Trump's attack ads. Defend yourself. And what does Kamala say?
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you got to be responsible for what happened in your administration? Wait a tick. Kamala Harris is the one who let in all of the murderers who've been murdering Americans in her open border policies. Yet Kamala Harris she just said, you got to be responsible for what happened in your administration. Well, then you're responsible for all the American deaths that have occurred because of your open borders. Brett Baer starting off with absolute smoke on that question. Here we go.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
you
please.
had the White House...
See? See? Wow. Wow. That's how you know. That someone's got a guilty conscience.
In the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things.
Guys, the Titanic didn't sink as bad. The Hindenburg didn't explode as horrifically or skin and flesh meltingly as bad as this Kamala Harris interview. I've never seen anything like it. It's the end of her. It's the end of her career. It's the end of her campaign. It's that bad. Kamala Harris, when asked to respond to mothers who've lost their daughters because of criminal aliens who murdered them, she says this: "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss, but, you witch." Watch.
And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a
19.
president of the United States who
18, right.
actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election. Because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what
I
I'm
will
saying.
tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
In all
her?
fairness, I told you I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time,
How bad is the Kamala Harris interview? The Trump campaign said our new ad just dropped, and it's just the whole Kamala Harris interview. That's it. Trump campaign saying this is our new ad. By the way, this interview should have gone on for an hour. They called it after 20 minutes. Throw in the towel. Throw in the towel. Live reenactment of Kamala Harris's Brett Baier interview. Throw in the towel. Oh man, Brett Baier says that Kamala Harris staffers started frantically waving their hands, trying to force him to end the interview. Look at this. Kamala Harris, I'm not in favor of giving criminal illegal aliens sex changes or driver's license. Brett Baier, then why did you bring on Tim Walz? Tim Walz as your running mate, when those are things he signed into law.
and there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must...
With that?
Look at this.
And also, Tim Walz is a pedophile. So, yeah.
Look at that expression. Look at that. Look at that expression. Oh, she knows. She knows. She knows. It's such a flipping nightmare. This is, I mean, every meme on my timeline right now. The advisor who suggested Kamala Harris interview Fox News. 97% of Americans say you effed up. Kamala, Trump has been running for office. She's just completely too stupid to run for president. She's just too stupid to run for president. Brett Baier afterwards saying, that there were 4 staffers running up to him, screaming at him to stop talking to Kamala Harris. I had to dismount at the end, says Brett Baer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. Oh man, it's a disaster. What a nightmare. Kamala Harris down bad. I mean, Kamala Harris is already losing, okay? She's already had a horrible week of polling. But you can see in just the expressions. Look at these expressions. You can see not only is she losing, she's collapsing. The collapse is here. The Kamala lapse is here, and it's glorious. Oh man, and it's beautiful. Nothing about Kamala Harris. I said nothing about this has been beautiful. This, ladies and gentlemen, was beautiful. Thank you, Brett Baer. See ya.
All right, man. Kamala is done. She's done. And I really can't wait to November 5th, bro. Because we're going to get... Hopefully we get a result that night at 10. Trump 2024, baby. Let's fucking go.